Hey everybody, it's Elijah, and we're here with another lab walkthrough. Today we'll be doing lab 6, but we're going to be doing things just a little bit different this time. So as we're moving through our investigation, we're going to create an incident ticket and document our findings just like you would in a real production environment. Now don't get me wrong, knowing commands is important, but knowing how to properly investigate, communicate your work, and document your findings is what separates a good analyst from a great one. So let's jump in and get started. All right, everybody. So we're going to start here with this scenario, and we're just going to read through this real quick. Several users across the organization have reported losing access to internal business applications and shared network resources. Internal reports indicate that the issue is affecting more than one department, while other departments continue to operate normally. Users experiencing the issue are unable to reach systems hosted on App Server 1 and have reported general connectivity problems when attempting to access shared resources outside of their immediate work area. A network maintenance activity was recently completed, and operations teams are investigating whether any changes have impacted connectivity. You have been assigned as a technician responsible for identifying the issue, restoring connectivity, and validating that normal operations have been restored. All right, so cool. So one important thing I do want to note on here is that it says they are unable to reach App Server 1. And it looks like here from the notes that this is not a complete outage from what they told us. But let's go ahead and get more into it. So here I generated a Teams chat. So the reason I generated this is because I wanted to kind of give an example of what it may look like if you're on the job. Some people communicate through Teams. So for this example, we're just in a channel with side ops and engineering who's on site. So let's just read through this real quick because there's something important I want to point out with this. So Sarah, she says, we're getting a lot of complaints from users. HR and finance can't get to anything, can't reach internal apps or file shares. Mike says, yeah, multiple users impacted. IT and ops seem to be fine. Not sure what's going on. Maybe a network issue. Okay, so right here, we are the analyst right here. So one important thing I want to point out is that when you're on the job, you should always be asking questions. So don't not ask questions if you're unsure about something. You're going to thank yourself later. Just if anything needs to be clarified, please just ask up front. And so here you see the analyst asks, when did these issues start? Is this happening to everyone in HR and finance or just some users? Any changes or maintenance done to the network this morning? And so right here, if you're reading these questions, you noticed what's being asked, right? So when did the issue start? What exactly is affected? And were there any recent changes or maintenance? So these questions accomplish three very important things, right? So first, it establishes a timeline. Secondly, it defines the scope of the outage. And third, they identify whether any recent changes could potentially be related. So we're not assuming here that maintenance caused the issue. We're just gathering facts, right? So you don't want to confuse correlation with causation. So just because, they come and say, hey, maintenance happened and then the issue started, we're not going to assume. It's good information to know, but we always want to check on our end to, validate any of that. And so, like I said earlier, we are going to implement ticketing with this. So I'm going to minimize this real quick. And we're going to use our ticketing tool, BridgeOps here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually, let me go ahead and pull up this Teams chat back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this entire Teams chat, right? So I'm going to go ahead and copy this real quick. And we're going to minimize this. And we're going to put this Teams chat here. So what we're doing is we're just going to create an initial update using BridgeOps. So you see here, I just copied basically the entire conversation. So I'm gonna scroll down here. I'm gonna go to, I'm just gonna do an initial update here. Audience as a customer. and we're going to do technical. Okay. So we're going to generate that update. So this is the update that it gave us. So we can just read through that. We are currently investigating reports of access issues affecting users in multiple departments, including HR and finance, who are unable to reach internal applications and file shares. The issues began around 9:45 a.m., shortly after scheduled network maintenance was completed this morning. Our teams are actively engaged in diagnosing the situation, focused on validating system and network components related to application availability. At this time, the root cause has not been determined. Investigation efforts are ongoing. We will provide updates as more information becomes available. So great. This is a good update because it clarifies we don't know the root cause. It also doesn't blame maintenance. And so that's what we want. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save this to the timeline. And as you can see, it got saved here. And what I wanna do is I'm gonna open up this command center. So this would be like our ticketing system here. So I just saved the incident. And here, you can now see down here, our first timeline entry right there. Okay. So we got our initial update. We're gonna keep this, we're gonna keep using this throughout this video. This is gonna be our ticketing system. So y'all just keep an eye on this. We're gonna come back to this a couple more times, okay? Okay, so now that we've communicated the incident and opened our ticket, let's go ahead and begin our technical investigation. So right here, let's actually take a second and review on our notes what we actually know at this point. So we know users in HR and finance departments are unable to access internal applications and shared resources. IT and operations have not reported any issues. Network maintenance activity was completed earlier this morning, and we don't know the root cause, right? So this is our topology that we're going to be investigating. Here you see HR department, finance, IT, and operations. And so let's just go ahead and get started. So whenever I'm troubleshooting connectivity issues, I want to start with the endpoint. So the first thing I want to verify is whether the workstation received any valid network information. So we're going to start with HRPC1, and three things I'm looking for in here is does it have an IP address, a subnet mask, and a default gateway. So let's just start off simple with IP config. Okay, so we see those three things here. We see the IP address, subnet mask, default gateway. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to determine whether this workstation can communicate with this default gateway, simply because the default gateway is how devices communicate outside their local network. So if this fails, then that's going to be a pretty important clue. So let's go ahead and ping the default gateway. Okay, so it looks like it's going to time out. So if you guys remember from the scenario, it did mention that users from HR and finance were unable to reach the app server. So here's the app server. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. So what I want to do is I want to get the IP address for the app server. So here it is right here, 192.168.50.10. So I'm just gonna validate that part about what they said about not being able to reach the app server. So I'm just gonna ping, what was it, .50.10. So we're just gonna validate that it can't reach the app server. So Okay. So it looks like it's timing out again. Okay. So it timed out. So what I want to do now is I want to check the finance department because that also was reported having the same issue. So we just want to validate that it's having the issue. So let's start off like we did last time, IP config, and then we're going to ping the default gateway. Okay, so just like HR, it looks like it's going to time out. So we see it has a valid IP configuration, but the default gateway timed out. So let's ping the app server again. 50.10. And let's see. Okay, so it looks like it's going to time out again, which is expected, right? But we always want to validate just to make sure. So now what I want to do is I want to compare these results against a department that isn't reporting problems. So the IT and ops department, I want to compare basically the exact same thing that we just did, but we want to verify that it actually all works on their end. So let's start off here with IT PC1, IP config. We're going to ping the default gateway. All right, so y'all see that works. Then let's ping the application server. There it is. All right, so it can communicate with the app server, default gateway, it can reach that. Let's confirm that with ops PC1. Just do the exact same thing, IP config. And then we're gonna ping the default gateway. And that works. Okay, so now we're gonna ping the app server. Okay, there we go. So everything works. So what that tells us is that both departments can successfully reach the application server. So that rules application server as it being the issue. We also rolled out that it's a complete network outage, right? So we ruled that out just basically by checking IT and operations to see they work perfectly fine. So we know it's not a complete outage. It's affecting multiple departments, but not every department. And so I think, looking at this infrastructure, we should start thinking now, okay, maybe it's not individual workstations, maybe it's a shared infrastructure that they share. So if you're looking at this topology, you can kind of already see where, the infrastructure that each department shares. So finance and HR, you can see they share this switch D1, IT and ops that have switch D2. So before we go any further though, we want to go back to our ticketing system, right? So we should be updating the ticket as we go. And what we're going to do, we're going to clear this out right here. I'm going to change this to customer update. So we're going to type in our notes right here. So I'm just going to say checked HR and finance, both having same issue. Then we'll say IT and ops working fine. Then we'll say app server still answering from IT and Ops. And we'll say looks like or looks isolated to something shared between HR, and finance. So we're gonna have BridgeOpsOne give us an update. So you guys see the notes I just put in there. So we're gonna do customer update, audience, customer, because we're pretending that we're actually updating a ticket that the customer is seeing. So we want to make sure that it's customer safe, communication style, technical. And I'm just checking this box right here. So all this box does is means that this system knows that we're talking about the update that we saved earlier. So that's all that does. So we're gonna generate that. And it says, we continue to investigate access issues affecting users in HR and finance departments. The problem appears isolated to shared resources used by these groups, while IT and operations departments remain unaffected and their application servers are responding normally. Our teams are actively working to identify the underlying cause and restore full access. Further updates will be provided as the investigation progresses. So that's a good update. That is basically explaining everything we just did. All we did was validate the scenario that we received. We validated that HR and finance are having the issue and that IT and operations remain unaffected. So pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and save that to the timeline. So we got update 2 right here. And what we're going to do is it should pop up here. So we're going to refresh. And there we go. We got our second incident update right here. And so we're just going to keep up with this. We're going to do some more troubleshooting. And again, after we do some more troubleshooting, we're going to come back and update this ticket again. Okay, so we're back at Packet Tracer, and we know that HR department and finance department can communicate. But just looking at the topology, you'll notice something here that both HR and finance eventually come through the same distribution switch here. So from there, traffic must travel across the uplink to the core switch before reaching the rest of the network. So this automatically makes me suspect the uplink right here, but we're gonna keep investigating. And so what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go to switch core 1, or this switch core right here. And so whenever I'm investigating a switching issue involving multiple VLANs, one of the first things I want to verify is whether the trunk links are operating correctly. So remember, access ports typically carry traffic for a single VLAN. Trunk ports carry traffic for multiple VLANs between switches. Since multiple departments are affected, then a trunking issue or a misconfiguration can possibly be the issue. But we're going to go ahead and check that here in the CLI. So what we're first going to do is we're going to do enable, and we're going to do a show interfaces trunk. And so this command displays every interface correctly, or every interface currently operating as a trunk. And so here I'm going to specifically be looking for the uplink for SD or SW core and SWD1. So just to look here, so you guys can see right here, SW core, SWD1. And so we're gonna go ahead and do the show interfaces trunk. Okay. So one thing you guys should notice is you see gigabit Ethernet 1 right here, but we don't see 2. So we're looking for this one. So that's not even showing here. And so if this link isn't functioning as a trunk, it could possibly explain why multiple VLANs are unable to communicate beyond the distribution switch. But let's just continue investigating. And so now what we want to do is we want to look for the configuration of that specific interface. And so this command right here, I'm going to do, it tells us exactly how the switch believes this port should operate. So when we run this command, we should be seeing in an administrative mode and operational mode, it should be showing trunk. if it's done correctly. So we're going to do show interface. And we're going to do gigabit 02 switch port. So you see here, this is what we're looking for: administrative mode, operational mode. And if you look, it says static access, right? And so there's our answer right there. So this interface is configured as an access port instead of a trunk port. So if you remember what we just said a few moments ago, HR and finance both rely on this uplink to carry VLAN traffic towards the core of the network. An access port can only carry traffic for a single VLAN. It can't transport multiple VLANs between switches like a trunk can. So that's why only the departments connected through SWD1 are affected. And IT operations, right here, IT and operations, they share a different network path. So that's why they're still operating normally. And so actually what I want to do, I'm going to go to, well, actually I'm going to go back here, and we'll check we'll check Fast Ethernet 24. So right here. So we'll go same. Right here. And as you can see, look, right here, administrative mode, trunk, operational mode, trunk. So that's why they're operating normally, because it's configured correctly. Okay. So what we're going to do is, now that we found that information, we found what our root cause is, we're going to go and document it in our ticket. So let's go and open up BridgeOps again. And we're going to go here and we're going to type our notes. So we're just going to say found issue on core side. And we're going to say uplink to SWD1 not trunking. Okay, so looks like traffic for HR and finance VLANs can't get access or get across. That's what I meant to say. And then we're going to say making config change now. So that's going to be our update that we're going to send out. We're just basically letting the customer know what we found and that we're going to make changes to it. So I'm going to generate update. So it says, our investigation has identified a configuration issue on a core network component affecting traffic flow for shared resources used by HR and finance departments. Specifically, an uplink connection was not properly configured to carry multiple VLANs, which is impacting connectivity for these groups. Remediation efforts are currently underway to correct the configuration and restore normal traffic flow. We will continue to monitor the situation closely and will provide further updates as progress is made. So, great update. It explains what we found. It explains that remediation efforts are currently underway, which we're about to make the configuration changes. So this is a solid update. So we're going to save this to the timeline again. You can see update 3, and then we're going to go refresh. Here it is, our next update. So it's good that we're, continuing to update the customer. The customer should be aware of what's going on as we're, going through the troubleshooting process. So we're going to go ahead and make these configuration changes. Okay, so now that we confirmed the root cause, the fix itself is actually pretty straightforward. So all we're doing is we're restoring this uplink to the trunk mode so it can once again carry traffic for all required VLANs between the distribution and the core switches. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So we're going to start here. We're in SW core, switch core. And so we already did enable, so we're going to do config T, configuration terminal. And we're going to do interface soon. switch port. And we're going to do switch port, trunk, allowed. Okay, let's see here. So I actually messed up here. So we need to put VLAN at the end of this. There we go. Okay, so then we're going to do in and write memory. Okay, so before we tell anybody that's been resolved, let's go ahead and confirm that actually worked. So let's run that command, show interface switch port. And this is where we're looking for the administrative and operational to show trunk. So there we go right here. So we see administrative mode, operational mode, they both show trunk. So that's what we wanted. So next, what we're going to do, we're just going to do the show interfaces trunk. And there we go. We see gigabit Ethernet 2. So remember last time we didn't see it. There it is. All right. So now that we did that, we're going to go to where the problem was reported, and we're going to validate all the commands we ran earlier. You see here that failed. We're going to run those again and just ensure that it's working properly. So let's ping the default gateway first, because remember that failed last time. Okay, there we go. And then let's ping the application server. Yep. So that's working good. So let's do the same thing for finance. So we're going to ping the default gateway. That's working. And now we're going to ping the application server. Okay. So that's all working great. So HR can now reach the default gateway. Finance can reach the default gateway. And so now that we confirm that server's been restored, we can now communicate the resolution in the ticket. So we're going to go back to BridgeOpsOne, and we're going to do our final resolution note. So we're going to go here, and we're going to type in a resolution. So found root cause uplink between SW core and SW D1 was access instead of trunk. I'm going to say change back to trunk, tested HR and finance both can reach gateway and app server. Oops. Traffic flowing normally. Again. Let's say incident resolved. Okay. So now I'm gonna come here, resolution summary, customer technical, checked. Okay, so it says the incident affecting connectivity for users in the HR and finance departments has been resolved. The uplink configuration between core network components was corrected to properly support multiple VLANs. Following this change, testing confirmed that both departments can now reach their gateway and application servers with traffic flowing normally. We will continue to monitor the environment to ensure ongoing stability. So that is a great resolution summary, summarize exactly what we did. Um, we're going to go ahead and save this to the timeline. Update 4, you can see that listed as resolved. And notice that the issue has been resolved. So we will actually refresh here. And you can see here, it also reflects that it's been resolved. And right here, here is our last update. And so just to kind of wrap everything up, I think it's important to note in this lab walkthrough that the real skill was really knowing which questions to ask, which evidence to collect, and how to let the evidence guide our investigation. So that's the kind of mindset that you're going to use every day as an analyst if you don't already. So it's good to follow a structured workflow instead of just guessing, and just making sure that you're communicating effectively throughout the incident. I think that's something that's very overlooked. Good communication is very, very important in IT. And so you guys just make sure that you're always making sure that you're communicating throughout the incident. And so thank y'all for watching this Broken Lab number 6. If you guys enjoyed this, I'm going to be coming out with some more videos. But until then, I'll see you guys on the next one.